Hi, everybody. You're tuned in to Where Waters Meet, a podcast featuring discussions on fly fishing, art, all things outdoors with a conservation focus. Hey guys, it's Alex and we got Bentley back today.
Hey guys.
Yeah, and we're here with Where Waters Meet and riveting episode today.
Yeah.
It's going to be unbelievable.
Always is.
Yeah.
You know?
Not really.
Yeah.
No,
this will be good. I'm excited. It's warm out.
It is.
It's finally warm, I think, to stay. I mean, we'll have our ups and downs, our normal Maine, but today's beautiful.
Yeah, it was 75 up here. You said it was 80 down your way?
Yeah, it was like 79 when I jumped in the car to come up here.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's supposed to be even warmer, I think. Going to be real nice tomorrow.
Yeah, we when I got here this morning, it was maybe 50 in here. But it was already like 60, 65 outside. So it was funny because like instead of turning up the heat, I just opened up the garage door off the other end.
Yeah.
And set up and the sun was shining. It was beautiful. It was great. It was
awesome.
It was. Yeah. But so what have you been up to?
Well, in the world of fishing, I've been fishing.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
I've been out 3 times now. We went out for my first expedition of the season, me, you, and Johnny.
Yeah, last week, yeah.
And that was awesome. That was fun. I caught one.
Yep.
Which is all I need.
Yep. John, we gave the recap. He gave the recap of that trip in last week's or last episode.
Yep.
2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And yeah, he gave that with the karma. He brought it in with the karma of the flies out of the trees where I saved his fly, he saved my fly, and then he mentioned that you like 100% saved it, and like within 50 feet of where we were going to take the boat out, you slammed a brown trout.
Yep.
Brown town.
Yeah, it was awesome. We all caught.
We did. It was good. And like we were saying,
Brown
like
trout.
anytime you're fishing, the water's in the low 40s and everybody catches trout on these waters, it's a good day.
Right.
You know, like,
and we saw a couple others and it was good. I mean, it was like wild I think it was literally my last cast. It was probably gonna be my last cast. We were like almost to the boat ramp.
Yeah.
And I said in my mind, like, oh, it's gonna have to be the one.
You willed it.
Yeah,
to happen.
I willed it.
You said you will.
And I caught a good little brown. It was great. And just glad to get anything, this time of year, especially. Because it was a pretty cold day, rainy all day, and
it was weird because
off and on, windy kind of. But
yeah, we went out and they were like, the forecast was like mid upper 60s.
Oh, it was supposed to be even warmer than that. I think it was.
Yeah, in the sun, like it never burnt off, and it was like
didn't
waves
really happen.
These weird fronts where it was like rain and then extreme wind.
Yeah,
and then it would ease up for like 45 minutes, and then we'd have rain, and then the wind would blow it right through.
Yeah,
weird day.
But other than that, so that was great. Got out for the first day of fishing, and it was great to have like a whole day on the water. Really knocked the rust off, and just had a good day with friends. Obviously on the water, can't beat it. What's the cliche thing they say about fishing? Bad day of fishing's better than good day at work or something like that. But
yeah,
so it was a great day. But and then I've been out in my hometown where I live in Auburn. I went out to the Royal River and searching for some of the brook trout that they put in there this spring, a couple weeks ago or whatever, some stockies, just to try to keep it moving and get out, excited to get out. Caught a couple brook trout there on the Royal. And then my wife and I went to New Hampshire this past weekend, and stayed at the Mount Washington Hotel for our anniversary because we went there on our honeymoon. And the Amanusuk, I think is how you pronounce it. Amanusuk. It's a weird one.
Yeah, it is.
It's Abenaki for fish river or something like that. So I'm like,
gotta go do that.
Let's fish in the river. Yeah. But yeah, no. So right behind the hotel, it's right there. I mean, it's not even 30 or 40 yards. The bend of the river comes right to the back of the hotel. You can walk out. You got to walk around because I didn't walk with my boots and my waders through the hotel because trust me, I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to just like have everybody like watch me go through. It would have been hilarious.
It's a real life fly fisher,
Yeah.
man.
And
Look at him go.
I mainly didn't because I didn't want to like, place is incredible and old and historic.
Yes,
and, I didn't want to wreck the rugs or whatever. But
Yeah.
so I walk around and went down, and it was cold and rainy.
Yeah.
It was snowing actually the whole time I was in the river.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm glad I brought my rain gear and my my jacket for that. But beautiful little section of river, like freestone style, like picturesque, and the hotel right there. It was very cool, really fun. Didn't get into anything there, but there are wild brookies in that.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot, but it's similar to a lot of our rivers where it's, stocked heavily over wild fish, which probably makes the wild fish struggle a little bit.
I don't remember that section. I've been there in December, and I don't remember what it looks like. It was years ago.
Yeah.
But I think they call that the ammo, kind of like we call the andro.
Oh, really?
Andro for short.
Yep.
So that you don't have to like twist your tongue all up trying to say. That is a hard one. It's funny though, you get better at it. It's like Androscoggin, people come up and they struggle with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, or we grew up right by Lake Peninsawasi.
Yeah,
so you want
that's
to really,
true.
you really want to mess people
Yeah.
up. You break out that, native name.
Yeah.
But
Norway Lake, like most people call it.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't like a challenge, that's
True.
what you say.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah.
That's true. But no, so it was fun though. I went out for a couple hours there, and it was just like a beautiful bunch of wildlife.
Yeah.
It was really neat, really pretty. Water's kind of high, so you get to really see how that river acts. So it created a couple islands that probably don't exist all the time. So I got to fish all the way around it, and some really neat little spots. And I don't know, I got a feeling there could have been a few fish in there, but just moving really fast water and really cold, so just hard to get them to move, and I didn't have a lot of time. But
Yeah, right now it's tough too because like we're still getting rid of some of that. You're dealing with high elevation snow melt there.
yeah, so that river originates from the lake in the clouds, they call it. It's 5,000 feet up.
Yeah.
And so it's coming right off Mount Washington, basically. So there's still a lot of snow up there. That's all runoff happening. And I mean, there was snow on the banks where I was fishing still, like in a few spots. So, but it was actually running really clear. But I think that's just because where I was pretty much right where it originates. It's not far up from where I was. So it's not getting a lot of the sandy banks all the way down, running in from the runoff. The runoff that's coming up from up there is like just running right into the river. So it's not peeling a lot of the banks off as it comes because it's so steep. But so it was really pretty, and I get to kind of see the bottom and everything. And so I fished a bunch of different stuff because you're trying to see if you can get anything to move, and fishing small stuff and threw a couple bigger streamers and just tried it all. But it was fun.
Did you like annoy Jen enough that she was just like, go fish and leave me alone?
So
I want to read a book.
So when we were packing, like, so
There's a story.
Yeah, the rig already has the fly rod rack on it, so my rods are already on the car.
Yeah.
So right there, I'm like, all right, I don't have to figure out how to get the rods in without her seeing because they're already on there.
They're there.
Right. And then, but I'm like, I haven't talked about fishing on this trip, so I'm like, how do I get my taco wading bag and my backpack with my stuff in it in? And so when she was, I gotta go, and I threw my stuff in and put it in the toolie because we weren't using the toolie for anything else. Like, all right, it's in there. And then she was like, wow, river's beautiful out back there. Yeah, man. Oh, maybe you ought to try fishing it.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know, if you want me to.
I mean,
It's your idea.
it's our anniversary. I'm here to spend
Yeah.
time with you. And
So we hung out all weekend, and then like the day that Sunday morning we checked out right before, we had to check out by 11. So around like 9, we got all our stuff checked out early, and I went and fished for a couple hours, and she hung out in the hotel. I mean, it's a beautiful hotel. There's like there's coffee shops. There's all kinds of stuff in the lobby that you can do. So she's wicked content with just hanging out when I'm doing stuff like that. If she doesn't want to be outside, it was cold, and so she didn't really want to be out there with me in the rain and stuff. She wasn't as prepared for it. So so it was great. She hung out inside. She did some shopping at the shops down in the basement and got a coffee, and we met back up around 11 and we headed out. It worked out perfectly. So it was a fun, good weekend. But so I'm psyched. I've already been out 3 times. I feel like this is a really busy time of year for us at my business.
yeah,
And so I'm always itching to get out in the spring. Sometimes don't even really get out for spring fishing at all. And then have to just, I get out in May a little bit, maybe beginning of June if it's not too hot. And then, so I'm psyched. I've already been out 3 times. Wicked excited about that. So, yeah.
it sounds like Mission Impossible. Like, it sounds like you're the mastermind.
You got to do what you got to do sometimes,
I'm gonna take some tips from you.
Yeah. No,
Yes,
you should. We probably shouldn't talk about it on air, though. I don't want to reveal them all. You know what I mean?
Gretchen
Our
does-
wives do listen to this sometimes.
Gretchen does I had this up the other day as like white noise in the background, and she was laughing at you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she liked Bentley.
Yeah, that's
She
good.
was getting a kick out of you. So,
Yeah. Wow.
but she might not now. If
yeah,
she knows that.
if she knows I'm your source to getting all the tips.
right, or I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like, okay, Bentley. So
How to
like,
trick your wife into letting you fish.
Here's a scenario.
Yeah, what would you do?
In this situation,
Yeah.
how would you figure out how to be able to fish
Yeah.
on your anniversary? I mean,
That's true. I
like,
should get definite man points for that.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a bunch of people
Yeah.
write in via mail.
More mail.
Yeah, more mail. You know,
I do tend to
like-
get a lot of mail from this
Yeah,
show.
yeah, like your true enthusiasts do. With pen and paper, quill pens
Yeah.
and ink.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they're gonna write it. They're gonna be like, this guy is like a god.
I've thought about starting a service, one phone call away. Tomorrow's my anniversary. We're going to this place. There's a river nearby.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
What do I do?
this is how you plan it out.
Yeah.
You do this. Yeah.
So, anyway, Jen, I love you. Dear wife.
Yeah.
No, she's incredible. She always wants me to have a good time too. So I'm very lucky in that.
Yeah. Yeah. You, me, and John all are very lucky that we have wives that appreciate us and like us to do things that bring joy to our life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great.
Fly fishing does that
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
So, new gear.
New gear. You guys have been talking about new gear.
Yeah, Johnny and I. Excuse me. Yeah, in the last episode we talked about what we got for new gear. John, we were saying it's funny, it comes in waves.
Yeah.
This is one of his light years where, he isn't getting as much. This is a heavy year for me. I've kind of...
Well, yeah, you getting into guiding
And I've been behind. It's just the way it goes. Like I'll ride a piece of gear till it kind of like dies sort of thing. So it's like I get in and I'll be okay for a bit. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, it's time to upgrade some stuff. So,
yeah. For me, I got a new 7-weight Recon, 9-foot 7-weight.
And that's what you fished out of the boat the other day.
Yeah, that was my first time using it.
Yeah. What did you think of it?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But I've also never even fished a 7-weight. So I'm up to 4 rods. I've got a 5-weight, 6-weight. I now have that 7, and last year or 2 years? No, it was 2 years ago now.
2 years
Almost
ago.
3, going on 3 years.
Yeah.
I got an 8-weight Recon.
Yep.
To take to New York for salmon river fishing for nymphing.
And then to be able to steal striper fish when
and
you're
to take
out here.
it take it striper fishing because I don't get to do that very much at all. But at least it can kind of serve as both.
Definitely.
So I didn't have a 7-weight and hadn't really fished my 8-weight a whole lot. I think I've only been striper fishing with it once or twice. And otherwise I've only, drifted it, tight lined it and stuff. And so not a lot of not a lot of casting with it. No. So, yeah, I wouldn't call what we do in New York on the Salmon River casting necessarily.
No, so, like you have an 8-weight there for fighting the fish.
Yeah, no, that's just for trying to get the fish because
it has nothing to do with casting and presentation.
Yeah, we're talking about 8, 9, 10 pound, fish, and sometimes you get into the bigger kings, you get into even bigger. Which I did land a king. Yeah, my first king this past year season when we went in November or October, I guess we went.
October, yeah.
Landed a couple kings, which were awesome. That was wicked fun. Decent kings. But anyway, so the 7-weight and hydros reel to go with it. Yeah. So both Orvis. And so that's my new, hard good, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
And I did get a new jacket, rain jacket, which I know you guys had talked about that a little bit. And I went with the expensive one. I got a really expensive jacket there. And what else? Anything else? Oh, I did get new boots. I'm into those new corkers. I mean,
Which model did you get? I can't remember.
Gosh, I can't remember the name of them, but they're the new boas.
So what we should do is next time we do an episode, John and I have been doing the gear reviews, but we ought to review your corkers.
Yeah, and I'll make sure I know the name of them. I think I know, but I don't want to speak out of turn. But we'll look into those. I would like to talk about them. I have very mixed feelings about them so far. I'm overall happy, but we can get into that. We'll get into that next time. I'll get that.
Well, and I got a new pair of corkers that I haven't even tried.
Yeah, I want to see those.
And and John and I were talking in the last episode that I think we're gonna change it up a little bit on the gear review thing where. I might bring them in and give a first impressions.
Hey
guys, I got these, and they're brand new. They just literally came out with them a few weeks ago or something. And be like, look, these are brand new. These are my impressions. I'm gonna wear them this season, and then maybe what we'll do is
recap it later.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I love them, maybe I hate them.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for me for gear for now. I probably am gonna get into new waders soon because the ones I'm wearing are starting to leak a little bit.
Who the hell sold you those?
Yeah, I got this friend who probably knew they were leaking and sold them to me.
Did you find the bubble gum the bubble gum in the boots? The bubble gum boots?
I'm bummed because they're great weight. I really like them otherwise, but I've only been, I guess it has been 2 seasons, right?
In those?
Yeah, well, because I bought those from you the first year we went to New York, right? Alex had a pair of waders. The waders I had in New York started to leak.
Yeah, and I had an extra set.
And it was pretty cold out that year. And I tried on, and Alex had brought a set that he didn't fit into as great. So he was like, hey, right? Is that true? No? I thought you just didn't want them. Or you knew they were leaking, so you...
They shrunk.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. There was no growing.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
That's a nice way of putting it.
They were anyway. that was where I don't think it's that pair of waders. I had that set and then they ended up just being new because they didn't fit me. But I bought a set when I was out there one time.
Yeah.
And I always wore larges or extra larges. And they kept bringing me waders and they wouldn't fit, and then they had to bring me the king version,
right? Yeah, they make the king size.
And that's why Joe calls me king shit.
That's right. Yeah,
the whole rest of the trip, that's all I could hear. But I grew out of those. I did grow out of those, but I had worn them twice, and they fit you.
They fit me really good, and they're a little bit thicker, so they were good for the cold water.
And they were maybe a little bigger than you'd wear during warm weather, but they're great out there because you can layer stuff.
Yeah, if you got sweatshirts on and stuff, it's great. So I got those, and they started to leak a little bit. I could probably run them for the rest of this year because I'm not worried about being it's not enough where I'm going to be getting cold or anything.
Right.
But
it could get to be that though quick.
Yeah, so I will probably before we we usually go to New York every year. So if we go to New York again together, like if I'm gonna get some, I'd probably get some at the end of the summer and have some ready.
What are you thinking about going with?
I have no idea. So I'm gonna be doing some research this summer. And
Patagonia has definitely they had some early issues back in the day, and their customer service is great. What I will say is if you have an issue, you can just go literally to Patagonia right in Freeport. They take right care of you, which that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Their waiters are top notch. I really want to try out these new Squalas. You know, they're out of Montana. I like what they're doing, and I like their designs. The stuff is really good. They're pricey.
Yeah.
A lot of people are raving about the Orvis ones now, but you hear kind of mixed reviews. But
yeah, I think I might try Patagonia. I like their stuff, and
yeah,
so we'll see. I'm gonna look into those for sure, and maybe I'll check out this other brand you're talking about, and we'll see.
You can't go wrong with the Patagonias.
Yeah,
I have 2 sets of Patagonia waders right now. Those are what I'm running. But my old ones are starting to leak. But they started to leak. But I've had them for, it might be 5-6 years, and they got a lot of use.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I mean, and I have a slight leak, where the gravel guard pulls down, where that seam is. I think just there's been enough flexing there, so I got no complaints. They don't owe me anything.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
all right.
Yeah, new gear.
Yep.
So you cover that yarn. There's what wish list new gear, Bentley.
Wish list?
Yeah. Drift boat.
Yeah, raft or drift boat, something to get down the river. That would be, I don't know if you could call that gear, but yeah.
That's gear.
Yeah. That for sure. I don't know. I kind of get everything I need.
Yeah.
For how much I fish, but there's always something.
Yeah.
Really, really nice snips.
We've been reviewing a lot of snips lately.
Have you?
Yeah.
I gotta check some. I got the regular like Umpqua, just kind of spring loaded old school style, and I've been rocking them for 2 seasons, and they still cut the way they did it on day one.
Yeah.
So I just don't see any need to get. But I see all these cool looking ones, and I'm like, man, those look really cool. But I don't really need them.
No, I rock this Orvis snip. They're $30.
Yeah.
So like no, like in the world of what people are paying for snips, like Johnny's like Abel's and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's worth $30 to me.
I've been thinking about getting one of those. You ever try any of the magnetic
Pads?
Yeah.
I have one. You can use it.
It's like a little, you can put on your wrist and
put your flies on it.
Yeah.
So I have one that, who makes the one you're talking about? Is it Kling?
I don't know.
So,
I just see like YouTube guys using them all the time. So
yeah. So I have one of the Kling pads, which is a magnetic pad like that, and it has a little metal backer plate on it, so you can put it anywhere. People put it on,
I see that one you have.
People put it on their hats. They put it on a shirt, or it's nice if you have like a bag that doesn't, you can put it on anywhere on the bag.
Right.
It doesn't hold flies as good as it. Like, I wish it was maybe a little bit stronger. Yeah. Like if you were to walk through a tree, like a branch very easily can just kind of flip all your flies off.
I'm a bang thrasher when it comes to walking to the river.
I am too.
I poke. I don't pay attention to my rod at all. I get caught on. All I'm focused on is getting to the river, and I hate myself every time on the trail. I get so mad at myself
because you're like, I should just slow down.
If I just slow down and pay attention, it's really not hard.
Yeah,
my reel gets caught up, my line, my tips going in. Like I'm just an idiot. Like if people watch me from a distance walking through the woods,
I mean that's what I think.
They'd be like, "Oh, it's really good that guy's getting out."
I mean, I've never said anything to you, but that is what I think every time I see you coming through the woods. I'm like, look at that idiot. I can't believe I go. I hope nobody's around to see that I go fishing with this absolute imbecile walking through the woods.
Yeah.
No, so the question is, because I actually have never paid attention to you going through the woods, is the endless debate. We are We might be able to settle this.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Probably not, but
I don't think you and I could settle anything.
I
most of the
feel
time.
I have my strong feelings about this, but what I've noticed about people walking through the woods with a fly rod,
Yeah.
and this is unplanned. We did not.
No.
This isn't on our little marker board here.
No.
Do you walk with your fly rod pointed forward or pointed backwards? Because it seems like there's two people in this world.
Well, the only time I will opt to maybe hold it backwards is if I'm right behind somebody walking.
Oh, geez, I like poking them with it.
I usually poke you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to poke you.
Or
most
I
of the
like
time.
slap people beside the head with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's even better.
But
Or if they're walking too slow, you just get the rod out beside their head.
Yes, like I'm here waiting for you.
Follow me.
Yeah. But no, I don't usually go backwards because every time I do, I get it caught on something and I feel like I'm going to break my rod. So I feel like I bang into stuff all the time, but that's the direction that the rod is meant to bend.
Yeah.
So that feels less harsh on it's. I don't know. There's no logic to this, but this is just how I feel in the moment. So I've tried it and then I almost always regret it. So I don't really do that anymore.
So what I do is I'm pretty much almost 100% exclusively a pointed forward kind of person. I have stuck it behind me if I'm on a trail where there's nothing I can get my rod stuck on. Because like you said, I notice if it's behind me, I grab limbs way worse if it's behind me.
Yeah.
But I can watch exactly where the rod's going if it's in front of me.
Right.
But that being said,
I don't.
with kids, I always suggest that if I have kids out,
Yeah.
or people that are talking and don't pay attention to the rod so much, like the good thing is if it's behind them and it drops down and it's dragging, that's okay. What I've had an issue with kids is like they'll be walking and talk to you, be like, hey, yeah, and the rod tip goes down and we're still walking forward and they're just snap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm not gonna say I haven't snapped one, but I've almost snapped one that way.
Yeah.
Because you and I are also talkers and you're
Yeah.
paying attention, talking in the woods, and
Oh no,
yeah.
I don't.
But no, so I don't know why did we get on that. I think we got onto that for some other reason. But anyway, we're both point it forward, boys.
Point it forward.
Yeah.
Watch where you go.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Anyways, but the new gear thing, one more thing about new gear before we do kind of pass over that is you were saying that you took your Recon 7-weight streamer fished out of the boat for the whole day with it the other day. And we had that was a little bit of a different style of fishing. You haven't done like a whole like bomb the banks day like we did. Like
I mean, we've done it, but maybe not all day.
Yeah, that was, yeah, that was like so what did you think? What do you think? 6-weight? 7-weight? What do you like better?
Well, this gets into a little bit about what we're going to talk about in the Tell Me More segment today, but I feel like once I get used to it, I think I'm going to like the 7-weight. But I think it's going to depend a lot on once I catch some more fish on it too, because that's one thing I'm nervous about. Not nervous in the sense of like, what am I going to do? I'm not like nervous about the act of catching fish on it. It's just, I'm wondering, am I going to try to muscle the fish too much with a 7-weight? Because it's significantly more rugged than my 6-weight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm curious as to how that's going to be. So I want to continue to fish it out of the boat. Like I might go out this week with Johnny. Yeah. I'll probably bring the 7-weight again because I just want to land some more fish on it so I can, I mean, because that's like casting is one thing, but if you can cast all day, awesome on it, but you never land anything, then what's the point? Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go with it. I think I'm going to have to tone it back a little bit on bringing fish in. Just, if they're not hooked good or whatever. But casting wise,
you still haven't made me up my broomstick. Sure.
Oh yeah.
I want to make a broomstick analogy right now.
Yeah.
Are you saying that it's more of a broomstick than your 6-weight?
It's much more of a broomstick. If I had to sweep,
you'd choose the 7-weight.
I'd choose the 7-weight for sure. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, but I don't.
And you're an aggressive sweeper.
I am
I've seen you
a
do it.
real aggressive brummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the brum. So, but no, casting wise, I felt like I was getting it out there easier.
Yeah.
It was windy that day, and I felt much less affected than I thought I was. I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to cast at all.
Yeah.
And I was cutting through the wind okay with it. Like I was getting it out there, and I was backhand casting much better than I feel like I normally do.
Yeah.
Because the rod was doing more of the work. Like it was loading up, and because I was fishing in the back of the drift boat that day, and so if you're on river left and you're right hand caster, and you don't want to risk smoking everybody with your fly in the boat, you kind of have to cast like this and then backhand it to that side of the bank, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're in the back of the boat, I find that I'm backhanding more often.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that you're kind of like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to cast well in the back of the boat if you're not good at that. And that's the one thing I find myself not being awesome at. So, and I've been working on it, and I've been getting better at it. And that day being our first day out and us fishing like a solid 8 hours or whatever, I was like, man, I'm going to last like an hour backhand casting because I'm just rusty. And, but it went way better than I thought it was going to. So I was pleasantly surprised with all that. And so I think that the 7-weight's going to definitely be maybe turn into my kind of go-to rod, at least this year, as I try it out more and get used to it. For being in the boat, maybe. I think I'll at least be bringing it. That's for sure. I really liked it that day. Yeah.
And, having a fast action rod like that's good in windy conditions.
Yeah.
That's the thing of like,
and you almost on the Androscoggin, you're almost always going to run into some wind.
Especially where we are.
It's bigger. It's a pretty big, wide river in sections, and there's just no escaping it.
You get so many thermals that come off the White Mountains.
There's lots of rolling hills, and we're going in between all of them, and it just changes so much that, temperature flux throughout the day and all that type of thing. You're going to get some wind.
And we got the Mahoosics and we got the White Mountains on one end in Mount Washington right there within sight. And like, even on days where they don't forecast, say, a lot of wind in the Bethel area, like if you get a warm day and that temperature spikes with the high elevation, you get these thermals that will kind of come down the river valley. And it's like, I've just had these days where, they're forecasting like 3 to 5 mile per hour winds, and you get out there and it's like 2 in-the-afternoon, and out of nowhere, you're like, okay, where's these like 15, 18 mile per hour winds coming from?
Yeah. And it has never really, I mean, it can, and it has, I'm sure, but it doesn't typically like ruin the day. It's just, it'll happen for a little bit. And a lot of times they'll die back off. But
sometimes
if you're in a good spot and you're catching fish and the wind picks up, it's like, you don't want to just stop. So, having something that you can be ready for that and be a little bit less affected, to be able to cast to the spot you're trying to cast to.
Well, you were in the back of the boat too for the day. And that's the thing is the way the river is and the direction that you head, and where the wind comes out of. Your front angler, you're usually just fine.
Yeah.
That wind keeps your cast away from yourself.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter if you're casting to river left or you're casting to river right. Your loop is just going to be further out from the wind.
It's staying away from you.
But when you're in the back, it has a tendency to blow that loop that you're throwing back.
Oh, I hit myself in the back of the head a couple times. Yeah, luckily without the hook side out.
Yeah, well, and you went straight Houdini and somehow hooked an unhookable anchor bracket.
I did it a couple times, I think.
Yeah,
got them off.
Yeah, I didn't look at it afterwards. I should have looked at that to see if they were up in there. I was like,
that we didn't look.
I
need to look. That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
You were just in the back. I just kept laughing because you're just like, just help me understand.
I was mystified.
Yeah, this is not possible.
Yeah, I don't know how it got up in that piece of square tube, and I can't imagine what this. You would think I don't think there's anything up in there for it to get hooked onto.
No,
it's crazy.
Something.
Something.
Your
I don't
friend.
know. Yeah, there's something in there holding on to it.
That's where I keep the troll.
Yeah,
that's where I keep the boat troll. Is up in the square stock.
Lost a good amount of flies that day. I usually don't lose that many flies, but
how deep did you go in the flies?
Well, I don't know. I lost a couple of yours.
Yeah.
I had one. Alex gave me what was it?
Zoo cougar.
A zoo cougar.
Yeah, that lasted a long time.
I wasn't even fishing and I lost it. My rod's hanging out the back of the boat, and I was probably eating a zebra roll or something. snack. And all of a sudden my rod just is like headed out the back of the boat like you're trolling, like you hooked a big fish or something. But it was like I was gonna lose my whole rod. I had to dive for my rod, caught it, and like lifted it, just out of instinct, and just snapped it right off. I must have caught a branch that we went over or something.
Yeah,
and
probably.
I didn't even get to, I tied it on, set it down, have a snack. I might have fished it a couple times before that, but I don't even think I fished it. I set it down. I said, well, Alex,
You were sorry.
thanks.
You were like,
I felt so bad.
you were so apologetic,
It
and I
gave me this really nice streamer.
and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, I cared because now now I'm like, well, now I don't have a fly again. So I don't even know.
That was I had tied like a 25 pack hook of that. So it's like,
I don't know. I lost at least 6 or 7 flies that day, but.
Well, you did. I made up for you because I lost 0 flies that day.
Oh, good.
Yeah, just so
Yeah.
rub that in.
Yeah. No, thanks. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we equaled each other out.
Yeah. That was good.
But
So anyway.
it was good. It was good. But should we dive into our on the Vice segment?
We should probably.
This is like a microscopic fly compared to what we did last episode.
Yep.
But this is
Change it up.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce this fine fly?
This is an Adams dry fly.
Yep.
Specifically, I think they call it a parachute, though, right?
That is correct.
Because of this little guy on top.
Yep.
I have fished this a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually got it. Do you remember that hatch that we got into out of the boat in the rain?
Yes.
And we were catching them on little Adams Drive.
Yep. That was wicked fun.
It was. And I think that they were technically taking blue wing olives, but they weren't
being
super
too
selective,
no.
and they were taking small Adams. But I think that's the beauty of the Adams Dry, is it imitates many different mayfly varieties.
Yep.
It's kind of the Jeep of dry flies.
Sure. And we should mention before we forget that we looked up the guy who invented this.
I'm sorry. I just read it off the board and I started laughing at our
You read it the way I read it earlier.
I did, yeah.
Well, so the person who invented this fly, the Adams fly, Leonard Halliday.
Yeah. In 1922.
1922.
Yeah.
And he named it after his friend.
No, he must have had a good fishing buddy.
Yeah. John Adams, maybe.
Probably his friend created the fly and he just stole the
took
pattern.
Credit. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, we won't say that.
No.
That's not official, but I'm just laughing at the name because Bentley was reading this off when we were doing our research and he said Leonard.
Yeah, I said Leonard Halliday invented this.
And I wrote it down. I say, how do you spell that? And I write it down and I'm like, did you say Leonard or did you say, isn't this how you spell Leonard?
It's also how you spell Leonard.
Well, well, it's like my grandfather's name was Leon, but we called it Leon, but people say Leon.
Okay.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Leon with an R
That's
at the end.
true. Yeah, Leonard.
Yeah.
Well, 1922. Who knows? Maybe that's how they said it.
Old Leonard.
Yeah, I think I nailed it. If anything. But anyway, and then I did read that like around in 1930-ish, somebody else actually kind of added the parachute to this tie, modified it a little bit. So it's interesting. It's wild. I love history in general. Like I love old stuff. It's like when we went to the Mount Washington Hotel, like we love going there because it's just incredible history there, really neat. So when you hear about stuff like a fly being around this long, patterns being around for how long they've been around, and we're using them to catch fish today still, like what a neat thing.
But
It is, and it's super productive. And so what I'll say about this fly and why I like this fly in the state of Maine is the state of Maine is a very, 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 very difficult state at times to match the hatch when it comes to mayflies. So you have other states where it's like, yeah, we got good we got PMDs and BWOs and whatever, and Henriksons or whatever, and they have the big 2 or 3 or whatever.
yeah.
And it's predictable.
Mm-hmm.
The state of Maine, I remember reading it's over 140 mayfly varieties. It might be 147. Most people don't know this, but the state of Maine has the widest variety of mayfly species in America.
That's wild.
It is wild.
It's awesome.
But the problem is it's like we don't necessarily have huge prolific hatches
Right.
here or there. So that being
So if the
said,
fish are really keyed in on something specific, can make it real hard.
it can make it real hard. And like, also, it's just like, are you going to keep 140 some odd different mayfly species, imitation dry flies in your box? Probably not.
Well, I do. That's all I have. I don't have any other flies. I just have I have one of each.
Yeah.
They're labeled in slots, 1 through 147.
And then you have your size, obviously, right?
No,
No.
I'm not that crazy.
No. So you're just like a size 12 and everything.
No, I don't obviously have that. But you're right. I can't imagine.
It would get pretty daunting. So, I keep, a lot of different varieties and spinners and what have you. But what I like about the Adams dry is just like we were describing. Bentley and I last year, we didn't even get out early. And
It was like a random time. We were just able to go.
yeah, like in the morning, the girls were going to do something. We're like, okay, let's go down. So we were on the river, hopped in the drift boat. We floated downstream and we're like, we'll go down and just motor back up to camp. And started raining.
Yep.
And we were
I think we were trying to get in between rain, but we ended up getting rained on, and didn't rain until we really got down there. It wasn't raining hard or anything, but
no, but it was just like a drizzle.
yeah.
And then there was this odd seam that we started having fish rising, and we've never even really fished it. It's not necessarily productive.
It was like probably a good 30 to 40 yards above where we went to fish.
Yeah.
And we haven't ever really had anything happen in that. I mean, we probably
No.
caught some fish there, but nothing on purpose, where we were like, hey, let's go fish that spot. It
Yeah.
was just maybe passing by to get to the spot where we normally catch fish.
Yeah, and
we were actually down past it.
We were,
And
and
we
then
were
we came
fishing the
back
spot
up.
that we normally fish, and
Yeah.
we were looking up at seeing fish rising, and we're like, what is going on back there? It just
Yeah.
was going off. And so we kind of zoomed over to the river right to not disturb it, came upriver and floated back around.
Yeah,
to
and
it,
then
right?
we got the boat in position, and
Yeah.
it's like this weird spot where you have like a rock outcropping in the middle of the river that's about 4 feet down, and then there's quite a big drop. And so you find a lot of fish that will hang around the rocks, and they really like the drop. And then the pool tail out. You have risers when you have caddis hatches kind of in the tail out of the pool. And then up above, there's like a deadwater section that's like sandy. And then that deadwater section comes along a rocky edge and it kind of bends around this point. And we just had these fish that were just rising on that rocky edge, like near the point.
Yeah, and right along the bank, right up against the bank. Yeah.
Tight. And there were blue wing olives coming off. I didn't have anything to imitate that, but I had some really small parachute Adams, and ended up taking a lot of fish on dries there. It
Yep.
was
I think we
also
were fishing droppers too, weren't we? Because I remember I caught 2 on one. Isn't that the time I caught?
It might have been. I wasn't fishing a dropper. I know that. Maybe you were.
I must have been. 'Cause
Yeah.
Didn't I catch 2? Or maybe that was a different time in that spot. But
I can't remember. But yeah, but it was one of those situations where perfect water to present a dry fly.
Yeah.
Just a nice walking pace, consistent flow. There wasn't varying current lines that are doing things to it. But anyways, this fly, the strong point of it is that it can imitate a lot of different mayfly imitations close enough that you're going to be fine, and have it in a lot of different sizes is what I would say. Because sometimes, even if you don't match a color perfectly with this, size can be an important enough factor that you can get them to take it. I also, in particular, like the parachute model. And for those that, or version, for those that don't know, typically, say that you were looking head on a fly, your hackle goes this way. So it wraps this way, and you kind of have like a little tube of hackle, and that will sit up really high. With a parachute, you actually you tie in this white tuft that you can see at the top. And this is like a post is what they call it. So you tie this in, and then you actually wrap your thread up, and then you spin the hackle this way around it. What's neat about this, and I would probably prefer this version over the other, even though I like both of them in certain situations and they're both very productive, is that this will sit just slightly deeper in the film.
Okay.
So what it is you can imagine the water level sitting at this hackle point here, your body just sits in the film a teeny bit, whereas when it's wrapped like this, it'll kind of perch on the top.
Yeah.
So it depends on if you want to be right up on top or if you want to kind of sit in that film a little bit. This can kind of imitate a spent or not quite as far in the emergent cycle bug, where maybe this got up to the top, it's starting to wiggle out of its shuck, it's at the point where it's going to let its wings kind of dry to take off. This is kind of at that point. And sometimes fish are more prone to take them at that vulnerable stage.
Right.
But it all depends on how they're feeding and what they're doing. So yeah, it's not the easiest tie.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking to tie them. If you would like to graduate to a point of tying dry flies, and especially parachute ones where you have to tie in your post and then you have to wrap that, start out with things that have larger hackle first.
Yeah.
So and I think we've touched on that. Woolly buggers, just like that's what you started with, and that's what everybody should start with. You're wrapping hackle.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect, but you're learning to do it.
Yep.
Then maybe graduate to a Hornberg.
Yep.
So now
which is exactly what I do. And I still, my Hornbergs don't come out mint, but it's one of those flies where it doesn't necessarily represent anything specific.
Right.
So if your hackle's not perfect, it's probably still going to fish okay.
Right.
So it's a great practice fly. And that's kind of like the stage I'm at in tying right now, is those types of flies, woolly buggers, Hornbergs and stuff like that. And that has allowed me to kind of get that wrapping thing down, which has helped me learn how to tie some egg patterns for New York and stuff, because you're doing a lot of wrapping, not necessarily hackle, but just getting anything around the hook shank kind of takes two hands, and getting your spacing from wrap to wrap matters on a lot of flies and different materials. So yeah, those are great ones to try first. I haven't really done much in the way of dry flies at all yet, but
I think you're at a point where you would do just fine. And I think the biggest thing with this compared to a Hornberg is that the sizing of your hackle is very important.
Yeah.
So like with a Hornberg, if you want to have it extra hackly, so your hackle's big, or you want it small, it doesn't really matter with fishability. This doesn't really look very good if you have way too small a hackle or way too big a hackle.
Right.
So you have a hackle gauge that you can put your feather over, so you can be like, okay, yeah, that's a size 14. And then you're like, I'm good to go. And then you use that to tie with. But the thing that when you do tie a Hornberg that you can practice with this is like with dry flies, it's very important to not mat your feathers together. So keep those nice clean wraps, and you want to wrap them tight together so that you get a pretty good tight hackle, because that is what is going to suspend it off the water. So you don't necessarily want it very sparse. So that's the hard part, is just as you get into flies like this, it's smaller.
Yeah.
But
it's hard, and it's hard to handle already. So yeah, that's when it starts to get difficult.
And then you use hackle pliers. Mm-hmm. You snip that little plier and it clamps onto the end of the feather, and then that gives you something to hold on to.
Yep.
And so anyways, but getting back to the pattern, probably the most, I would say definitely the most versatile mayfly dry pattern that you could have, whether it's tied traditionally or a variant or in the the parachute. everybody should have Adams dries.
Yep.
Like everybody. At the very least, if you don't know what's coming off the water and you can't see what color it is, try to figure out what size it is and throw an Adams dry that's in that size range. You're probably going to be able to get some takes.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. So there we go.
Okay. And don't forget, you'll have to zoom in on this. There it is, done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll remind you later.
Yeah, you'll have to remind me later. So, yeah. So moving on, though.
Yeah, what else we got to talk about?
Tell me more.
Oh, yeah. Let's do Tell Me More.
Bentley's brainchild. That's what I call it.
Yep.
Tell me more.
All right.
Tell me more.
So we talked about, again, the Tell Me More segment is, a little bit more geared towards beginners and some of the stuff that's talked on the podcast or other people's podcasts that we hear sometimes. And, I'm always kind of listening from a beginner's perspective, just because it's kind of how my mind works. And, I'm still learning a lot about fly fishing, which, I think anybody who's fly fishing is. And I think great, awesome, skilled people that are incredible at it would even tell you that they're still learning, right? It's one of those types of things.
That's what's awesome about
you're
it.
always learning no matter what.
Yeah.
So I love thinking of stuff that way. And I always like to think back about, when I was learning and stuff that may have helped me progress a little faster, right? So that's where this segment comes from. And so this past week was listening to some stuff and, have been hearing more and more people, or maybe I'm probably just noticing it more because it's something that I'm learning to do more.
Yeah.
That I hear people mention is single hauling and double hauling, for casting.
Yeah.
And so people might, and I've heard you guys a little bit gloss over it, just saying, yeah, and you double haul and you single haul. And but like, what does that mean? So that's just basically, I thought it'd be a good, quick thing we could talk about just to give some people. I really only, I don't want to say heard about, but even thought about double hauling just a couple of seasons ago, probably, and was like, heard the term a lot, but never even really gave it a thought because wasn't, somebody that was probably even ready to care about it too much, and thought, man, now that I'm doing it and learning to, put a single haul into my casting a lot more, I'm like, man, I wish this is like somebody would have told me to do this a long time ago. So just, I figured you could give a quick little snippet on just what it means and what it can do to your casting.
Yeah. So I was going to get some bendy thing.
Yeah.
I didn't do that, did I?
No, you didn't. We got anything? You got a star stick behind you. It's probably not bendy enough.
That might work. Wait a second.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully people can see that on the camera, but they'll get the gist.
I do have a broomstick over there.
You do, but it's not bendy.
It's not
That's
bendy.
the whole point of the term.
Well,
Okay.
so everybody, this is our fly rod today. Anyways, first though, just speaking of casting, I think single hauling and double hauling, which I will get into, is like something that people should learn to cast not doing those things first.
Sure.
And the reason why is because the first thing that you want to do is you want to learn how to make the rod just bend.
Mm-hmm.
And the easiest way to do that is to not add any of those other factors in at first. So first you should learn to just cast normally. And then as you progress and maybe distance becomes more of a thing, you should learn to single haul first. And so a single haul, let's just say that I'm casting. So here's my hand and I'm doing my cast, right? And this right here is what your normal cast should be looking like. You should not be out here, with your arm. You shouldn't be, I know a lot of people say don't break your wrist. There's a lot of rules that you can break as you get more advanced that can help you with distance. But to begin with, you should really try not to break that wrist. And you really want to keep that elbow tucked. And it's just a little, it's this. That's a cast. And once you get that mastered, then at a certain point, you're going to say, I want to get more distance out of this cast. And a single haul is just simply with your offhand, which is holding the line, and you're doing your cast like this. So what happens is if I wanted to get more distance on my forward cast, the only way that I can do that is by bending the rod more. And one of the ways that you can bend the rod more,
Don't bend it that hard.
is to break. No, one of the ways that you can get this rod to bend, and what a deep rod bend does is when that rebounds, it creates line speed, right?
Yeah.
And the more deeply that rod bends, then when it rebounds, it's going to create more line speed. So one of the ways that you can easily create more distance and create more line speed, which is almost like cheating the system, is when I come forward on this forward cast, that rod's bent. Now when I start to come forward, I start pulling this line down. So what ends up happening is I'm artificially generating additional line speed. You follow me?
Yep.
So then at this point, I yank it down. I've bent the rod a little bit deeper into the blank because of that. And then when I release the line with my offhand over here, well, you probably can't see it over here, and I have that stop, that rebound is going to create far more line speed. It's going to shoot way further, right?
Yep.
So that's a single haul.
Yep.
A double haul, which the best way that I've heard that described to people is like rubbing your belly on the top of your head at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Which I am excellent at.
You're going to be great.
Yeah.
So it's essentially doing the same thing as a single haul, except instead of just hauling on your forward cast, you're also hauling on your back cast.
Right.
So there's an action like this with this hand. You follow me? So what it is you're artificially creating line speed on the back cast by pulling it down, which then makes it so that you can shoot more line behind you. Then you got to bring your hand back up to your reel.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're at a point where you're ready to haul on the forward cast.
Right.
Then on the forward cast, when you come forward, you have a last haul to present it. And, but that being said, there's people, and this happens to me even too, where like I get tired and lazy and I'll take care of some of my shortcomings with casting by, ending up just kind of getting lazy and double hauling.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not something to fix a bad cast.
Right.
Is what I should mention. It's something to add in after you've gotten kind of proficient at just a normal cast without a single haul, without a double haul.
Yep.
And then you can incorporate those, and they're great things to add into your repertoire. I think that they're important, especially a single haul for somebody who's starting out. If you're dealing with windy conditions, and this is anywhere, and you're casting a single haul or a double haul and generating that extra line speed, the faster your line speed is, the tighter your loop is going to be.
Yeah.
And the tighter that your loop is, when you have a forward cast and that goes out, imagine that this is my leader and my fly and this is a loop. If I have a big loop that comes out like this, it's going to catch wind and stuff.
Yep.
If the line is going really fast and I got a tight loop, imagine my elbow, I'm able to drive through that wind. You can overtake windy conditions easier if you have faster line speed.
Yep.
And then another thing that I would say is good with it is just on a long day, you can, just like when we went out the other day, like you can do a little bit of a better job of combating fatigue throughout the day if you get so that you know how to single haul in a relaxed way. And and we talked about that.
And that's what I've been really trying to do, because I actually, have like pretty bad wrists. Actually, I've struggled with like pain in my wrists for a long time. I'm sure it comes from being a screen printer for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You know, screen printing just beats up on your knuckles, your wrists, your elbows, and even your shoulders from manual screen print and pulling a squeegee for 20 plus years. And so, like, you know, at night, every night, you know, my wrists ache and they crack and pop and all that type of stuff. So casting can get to me pretty quick if, you know, not all days, but there's some days where I do struggle with it and it just downright hurts.
Yeah.
And so lately, as I've been learning to single haul and throw that into my casting more, especially out of the boat when we have the opportunity to cast a little further, you know, because when you're fishing from the bank, you usually got something behind you. You know, you're not casting super far from the bank a lot of times anyway, or at least for like the smaller streams that I fish on foot. You know, there's guys that, you know, they've certain types of rivers and places that you're fishing and stuff where you have the opportunity to cast really far, obviously. But I find myself in the boat getting a lot more fatigue in my wrist.
Yeah.
Specifically because we're usually out for a little longer in the boat. Usually not going to go for a 30-minute, you know, you're not going to get the boat all out to go out for 30 minutes. Usually you're going to go out for at least a couple hours, 2-3 hours.
Right.
And a lot of times for most of the day to do a float. So that's where I find myself, you know, my wrist's starting to get sore, you know, a little bit faster on those days. And so, and you're up a little higher, so you can cast farther. So you're like expecting yourself to be able to cast further. So you're pushing yourself to cast a little further because you're in the boat anyway. Maybe that's just me, but that's what I find. And so even just a real simple on that last cast single haul is really starting to help me last a little longer. And more so just be more in control of my line. Because that's what fatigue I find it's like where I really struggle with fatigue is like I start to lose control of my line. And I don't and then you start to get frustrated because you know you have like the ability to put the fly where you want it most of the time. But if your wrist is killing you, your elbow's killing you, you just start to like the rod starts to take control and it kind of the line and stuff just ends up a lot of times, you know, feels like it's just going to go wherever it wants to go. And you've got to get way more deliberate. And it starts feeling like you got to do a lot more work in order to get the fly to land where you want it to land and get the distance that you want to get. And it's not always about how far. Sometimes it's just very specific. Like we were talking about getting hung up a lot because we're bombing the banks. Well, it's not about how far you can cast, but it's about casting the exact distance that you want, which actually can be really hard too.
And doing it quickly.
And doing it quickly. And if your wrist is hurting, you really start to struggle with that. You get a little bit too long. Now you're in the bushes or in the branch you were trying to avoid. You don't get far enough and you're not fishing like in the proper spot where you're going to get a take. Yeah. So you got to really be on it with that. And so if you can do anything you can do to reduce fatigue in that situation, especially, and having to just cast fast over and over and over and over and over again when you're bombing the banks like that is super important. So anything that can help, with the fatigue, I think is something that's going to be real helpful to somebody.
And that was, for those that are listening that don't know, we went out and we had a streamer day and it's bombing the banks, like Bentley said. And it's a style of fishing that a lot of fly fishermen don't experience, none unless they fly fish from a drift boat, and none unless they fly from a drift boat with people that want to fish a certain way.
Right.
And it's
because if you want to anchor up and dry fly fish, it's totally different.
It's totally different. And typically bombing the banks, we're trying to cover as much river as possible. And we're trying to be methodical about it. And we want to cover every inch that we possibly can. And it's a very aggressive, like search and destroy style of fishing. And so you're casting to the bank. It's not always long distances. Sometimes we might only be 30, 40 feet off the bank. But you want to hit the bank as quick as possible. You want to get 3 to 4 to 5 bumps. A lot of times you come back and you want to pick that back up and hit it again because there's other structure coming up because the boat's moving. Mm-hmm. And depending on the flow and where you are, it can be really fast paced.
Yeah.
It's boom, boom, pop, 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 boom, pop, boom, pop, pop. Yeah. I'm going to hit the front of this stump. Boom. There's another limb coming out the backside. You pick up, you hit that again.
Yeah.
because you're trying to see if you can find a brown or something in this structure. It's very, very fast. And having a single haul in your repertoire with that is really nice. Typically, I'm rolling, let it sit, pick up, shoot. But there's times where there's enough line where I pick up and then I just do a single haul.
That's what I was going to say. You're basically, if you're close enough to the bank where you don't have a ton of line out, you're basically just, bumping it back at the amount of times that you think that you need to in order to try to see if there's anything there. And then as soon as you think that's over, you're almost kind of what I kind of been doing is you're almost getting like a little bit of a double haul in just to get it out of the water.
Yeah.
And you pick it up with that strip at the same time, and that kind of creates that bend in the rod that flips it out of the water, and then you're just picking it up. And then if you can get a quick single haul.
Yeah.
And again, I showed an example of how much I use my arm right there, which, like you're saying, but that's just like instinct. And so, but you're just trying in the boat, a lot of times you're trying to get, if like I was in the back of the boat that day, so I'm trying to get it up high because I'm getting it over everybody's head and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to fling it over, but that's where that single haul really helps because you can kind of jump it and you get a quick shoot right down back to where you were because you're trying to get like 2 to 3 casts in every spot if you can.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times with those bigger fish we're chasing that are hiding on the edge of the banks, hopefully, a lot of times they might see it the first, but you're going so fast, they see it the first time, and then as soon as that second one hits, they're like, I'm not letting it go away again, and that's when they're going to chase it. So if you can get 1 or 2, 3 in that spot, and then you got to get 1 or 2, sometimes you only get 1, sometimes you might get 3, depends on the flow, how fast the boat's moving, what's the guy rowing doing, is he holding you back a little bit? So there's a lot to it. But the single haul can come in really handy.
It can come in handy, and like I said, I think the most important thing is that it's not don't let it handicap you. It's something that it's something to add in to a sound cast already.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about what I see in my boat with people is like sometimes people who don't have a single haul in the repertoire, I won't even talk about a double haul. I'll just say single haul is like, I can see somebody who actually is pretty good caster at 40 feet, maybe 50 feet.
Yep.
But then things kind of break down if they got to get past that, and then bad habits come out. So they might do too much false casting at that point.
Yep.
They'll start getting really big aggressive casting motions instead of staying in tight where you don't have to get outside or right here.
Yep.
And
I'm definitely guilty of it, especially when I start to get tired and my wrist starts hurting.
And
stuff.
And like if I can feel the boat rocking,
yeah,
then probably people they're getting outside of that window of where they should be. So if you've got a 40-foot, 30-foot cast down, try the single haul. Some people are super intuitive about it. Like Gracie, never have talked to her about it at all. Gracie can double haul.
It's awesome.
She just, I don't know if it's through watching people.
Right.
I've never given her a casting lesson. I just handed her a fly rod when she was little and she cast it. And there's people that pick up fly rods and that's just kind of their thing. I mean, it's like you can give some people a baseball bat and they can hit a baseball.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like kill a chicken or something.
Or that. But you know what I mean? Like there's just certain people that are kind of gifted
intuitive.
At it, and not one style is better than the other. It's no different than a golf swing. You have amazing golfers who are feelers.
Yep.
And they don't know any of the technicalities of anything.
Right.
They just are like, no, I just take the golf club and I hit a ball.
Yeah. Billy Madison's.
Yeah. And then you have people though that are so technical.
Sure.
They video themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
They dissect exactly how they should do it. So it doesn't matter how you get there, but single haul, double haul's good.
Yeah, I just thought it would be a good one to, so people hear it, newbies on listeners and stuff like that are maybe just getting into fly fishing and hear it mentioned often. I feel like it's something that's probably been said a bunch. So I thought it'd be a good one just to.
I think it was a good one that you brought up, especially in the light that you brought it up, because you hear everybody talk about single haul and double haul, and what everybody talks about it with is do this to improve the distance that you can cast.
Right.
It will. Sure, it will. It can. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, 100%. But from a bomb the bank standpoint of what you're just saying, if you learn how to do it, it can really ease up your fatigue at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was good. But yeah,
Okay.
we're an hour and 10 minutes deep.
We've told more. Yeah, we are. Yeah.
We've told more. We
Right? Yeah.
yeah, we did it.
You want to continue on off these couple topics
Yeah,
quickly?
we can knock them off.
Okay. So, yeah, I was going to ask Alex, as you guys know, he's a newly registered Maine guide. What? And and so been booking trips, huh?
Yeah.
So I was just curious, maybe you could give everybody an update on how this season's coming, starting to shape up for you, and if you've got some trips booked and how you're feeling about it.
I do. I have I got a number. My schedule is getting pretty busy.
Good.
And I feel very lucky to have so many people that support the yurt business, that have supported my art business, and are now supporting, the guide aspect that I've blended in.
Yeah.
And I got some great clients that I've been chatting with, and I'm excited. I'm doing some rowing lessons.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. Taking kids out, doing some, fly fishing kind of weekend, kind of learning newbie type stuff.
Yep. Cool.
We got smally trips on the books in July.
Good.
And,
yeah.
So yeah, I feel pretty lucky. I mean, especially, this being my first season. I mean, obviously I've been floating the river for a very long time, obsessively.
Yes.
Which
practicing on your friends and
yeah.
me being one of them.
Yeah, but it's like it just feels like the right time.
Yeah.
It feels like the right time for me. And
I agree. I agree with that. As we've been friends for quite a while now, and it's been talked about on and off for a long time.
Yeah.
But to see and know like what your career has evolved into, to know what you used to kind of do before the yurt business really happened for you and all that. I think, it would have been a little bit tougher for you to do it the way I think you wanted to do it if you had started sooner. So although, everybody wants to, live their dream and do the things that they envision as soon as they can, and I'm guilty of that, I think this is working out just right. It seems like it could for you, because you're really all in on the yurt business, and you've getting back into the art. You've had some, great requests. You've been selling paintings and stuff. Yeah. And so I think your what it seems like from an outside, and, we talk a lot, hang out a lot. So knowing what your schedule is kind of like now and on your day to day with the business and your career, I think, man, this is like shaping up to work out really awesome for you. So I'm really excited for you. I think it's going to be awesome to follow along this summer and hear about your trips with these people, and hopefully, you can develop some repeat clients, and I think it's going to, we'll be able to have hopefully some great content. I'm excited to continue coming on here and asking about your trips and how they went and the different stuff you're experiencing. I think you're going to be able to shed even more light on the education stuff, and it's just going to get you on the river more. And so hopefully that will help with your, exploration to the conservation stuff and being able to give more knowledge about that, just being on the river. I mean, what, better person to try to help and educate and all that on a specific, watershed, if you're there in it every day, all the time, doing stuff on the river. So I'm excited for you. I think it's going to be really fun.
I appreciate it. I agree. I do think that it's the right time. There's been a lot of things that have come together to kind of get to this point.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I waited until I got like the whole infrastructure of the yurts built.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to do it in between when I was in the, the building phase of things up here, because it would have been tough. But
you were really busy. Building it was a lot of work. And I think that's a wicked neat addition that not all guides have. And I think there's quite a few that do. And I know those guys, I know a few of them, and they have like places to stay as well as, being able to provide the guiding and stuff. So, but this is
a really unique spot. The yurts is really neat. You know, the space you've built here is like beautiful, awesome place to come just to come here. So that's, I hope, really going to add to the experience of your customers and, you know, keep them coming back. And I think it'll be fun to hear their reaction to that. Yeah, so it's gonna be a neat little combination you got going on. Are a lot of the people that you've got booked so far, are they staying?
Almost all of them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, almost all.
So you got
them.
almost all stay and fish packages kind of.
Yeah, and I mean it's obviously helped because we we have free stay with a full day guided trip in the month of May and June, which is definitely, people are taking advantage of that, and it's great because I want people to have an opportunity to see what it's like here. You know, it's just like we do one night stays, and they're great because probably 50% of the people that come and do a one night stay with us is like, we were trying out a yurt. We've never stayed in a yurt.
Yeah.
And we're going to be back. We love this, you know? So
definitely one of those things. I feel like if you've never done it, you might be a little skeptical.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've all stayed places where you go on and look at pictures, even if it's just a hotel or whatever, and you look at pictures, like, man, this place looks nice.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you're like, no.
Yeah, you're like,
no.
This picture was of the sofa from maybe like 25 years ago. This is like
when they built this place, day one. That's what they have for pictures on there. But I will say, you know, Alex's, you know, business here, the Western Maine Yurts, the pictures are awesome, and his website really showcases in an awesome way what the experience is like. But it's actually one of those rare occasions when you get here, it's almost even better than what the pictures depict, because it really is. The yurts are beautiful, the space is beautiful, and they're, you know, well furnished and all that. So I think it's going to be awesome. I think those people are going to be pleasantly surprised, and at the very least, they're going to be people that are probably going to realize, wow, the yurts are really cool. We're at the minimum, we're going to come back and stay here in the yurts more. So I think that's going to be a great.
Well, I appreciate that. We worked hard on the, you know, trying to do an accurate representation of what was here, and it's been nice. It's given me the opportunity to put people in touch with the outdoors, and I really enjoy seeing them do that. And that's what the yurts has done, and that's what's so exciting about the guiding for me. Is I mean, you know how much I love fly fishing.
Sure.
It's it's my lifeblood, really.
Yeah.
And like, to be able to share that with somebody and take them out to a river system that I really truly love and care about, and kind of share that experience and share it with them the right way.
Yeah.
You know, that means a lot to me, and I'm glad that I did take the time that I took to get to know the river. And you know, I fished it, but I've been float fishing. You know, I've been fishing it from a drift boat and rafts and everything for 13 years now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not knocking any new guides out there that are starting, but, you know, that's the hard part about being a guide. I think in starting out becoming a guide that maybe a lot of people don't think about is like, you know, it's more than just like going and taking a test and becoming a registered Maine guide. Like, you know, I'm glad that I've taken the time to get an intimate knowledge and relationship with the Androscoggin watershed, which is where I do primarily my guiding, you know.
Yep.
And you know, I love that river, and you know, there's not a whole lot of surprises, you know, for me with it. So
yeah, and I think, you know, anybody listening that's thinking about going out with Alex, and, you know, or has already booked a trip and is excited about going out, you know, I've been riding in the boat with Alex now for quite a few years out of those 13 years that you've been doing it, and never once have I ever questioned your ability to get us down the river or know where we are. I've always been really impressed with how you know whether or not we take a left or a right. The Androscoggin's very braided, so knowing the sections that you're going to be floating and taking people down is going to be really helpful in just keeping everybody safe and confident that, you know, you're going to have an easy trip down the river. And so I've always been like kind of blown away by that with, you know, what you've been able to know. You can always tell me like, well, if we go down there, we could do this, but if we go down here, we could do this, but then we're going to have to, and you got it dialed.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, I've learned a lot just by riding with you. And, you know, the last season got to float it a couple times on my own for the first time. And that's been, you know, taking my wife out. She, you know, she said a prayer before she got in the boat with me, but you know, it worked out good. And I'm very thankful and grateful that I've had time, you know, to spend with you in the boat like that, because, you know, you fast tracked my knowledge because you've got so much knowledge about it. And you've, you know, been really awesome about passing that on to me so that I can enjoy the river the same way. Cause I love it as well. I've really fallen in love with this whole section of river, and we spend a lot of time doing it. You know, we camp up there all summer long. And so, yeah, that's,
and we fish all its tribs together. And it's, you know, it's not just the andro, you know, it's all all the little stems that come in and tribs
it's just the whole area is just incredible. So
it's been cool to see you row. It's and that's like, I'm so excited to teach people to row this summer. You know what I mean?
I'm hoping you'll continue to teach me because I need more practice. But
I'm taking Pat out. He's building a wooden drift boat. He listens to the podcast too. So hey,
that's
bud.
awesome.
And got to meet him down to the Eldridge Brothers show, and we're gonna have a great time together. I know it. But yeah, he's from out west, and he moved over here, and he's building a drift boat, which is super cool.
That is awesome.
And he called me up, and he's like, "Hey, I got a question for you. Do you mind teaching me to row? Because I'm building a drift boat, and I've never rowed one before."
Wow.
And I can't wait to see his boat too.
Yeah, that'll be really neat.
But anything in regard to fishing is good, and I'm really happy that I'm in the place that I am, and I've been really lucky. But my schedule is filling up. Like May is getting very full, in June, and I'm booked out into July. So if anybody,
get on it. If you want to get a trip with Alex, make sure you get on booking. And like he said, you know, I think it's very cool. You're offering a stay with, you know, with a guided trip. And if you were on the fence about trying the yurts and you've been interested in fly fishing, or maybe you already fly fish and don't fly fish up in this area and, you know, just want to try something different, all kinds of incentives there to give it a shot and take, you know, have Alex take you out for a day. You get a really cool stay in the yurts if you've never been, and get to check out a section of river in the, you know, main New England famous, you know, Androscoggin River, and get to check it out. And it's definitely worth it. Worth it.
Bring your family out. We got a lot of new clients that are coming that are going to go out fishing with me, which I'm excited about. And they're like, yeah, my wife, you know, was thinking about coming up and just staying in the yurt while I'm out. And you know, she likes to relax and sit by the campfire and read. And I'm like, come on up, you know, like everybody can enjoy themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Or she can ride in the back of the boat too.
Yep.
Or she can fish.
Yeah.
We can do it all.
That's what she should do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Cool. Well, I'm excited for you, man. We'll have to, you know, talk about that more once you start getting into your trips, and I'm excited to hear about all of it.
Appreciate it. I do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of camping. You getting ready? I'm getting ready, trying.
You're ahead of me.
Yeah, not by much. You know what? I called you the other day about my battery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't touch the battery yet.
Yeah.
It's still sitting right where I was.
But you have your camper at your house.
I do have my camper back at the house.
Yeah.
And she's in pretty good shape because I store her inside in heated storage. Let's see. It's an 11. It's a 2014, I think it is.
So it has a better life in the winter than it does in the summer.
Much better.
Yeah.
It shacks up with, like, you know, wicked expensive cars and tons of, most of the campers in the place that I've been storing it are like these crazy Airstreams.
Yeah.
Like, and Airstreams are like crazy expensive, you know? And I got this little.
You show up and they're like, you want to store this in heated storage?
Yeah. They're like, do we have to?
You're like, I love this thing.
Yeah. But it's great, yeah, because I love it's a wicked cute little camper.
It is.
It's a little 13-footer KZ Sportsman.
Yeah.
And it's got like a fold down kind of pop-up style tent bed in the back. And it's just perfect for Jen and I. And my little SUV tows it great, and it's all we need.
It's a very unique layout.
Yeah.
You don't see like
no
a a lot of them. It really maximizes the space really good.
And I set it right up last year with a pretty sweet solar package. So we're pretty self-sustaining now for like a pretty solid week. We can be on our own with nothing, and we can, you know, we have a little bit of electricity, at least to like charge phones and run the lights and use the toilet, you know, the pump that runs the toilet, and it can hold about a week's worth of black water. And, you know, sometimes we might have to like add a little. It doesn't have a huge freshwater tank, so we might have to bring a little extra water with us, but we can be out off grid for about a week, which is all we really need. And it's wicked fun. So yeah, I've got to do a little bit of caulking around the seams where it's starting to crack a little bit this season, but I don't know, might rotate the tires or make sure the tires are still good. But because I store it inside, I think they're holding up pretty good. Yeah. And hook the battery back up and clean out the water system. You know, probably just flush it once. I didn't even put antifreeze in it this year. That's the status I'm at. Yeah, because it's going to be stored inside. That's why I said I'm not even going to bother with the, flushing the water system. I just drained it. Yeah. And, I said, called it good. So I do got to check, make sure all that's good. I think it's going to be styling, basically. Clean her up, flush her out once, hook the battery up. Go. We're ready to roll. I'm excited.
Campers.
Yep.
Bentley has a way different experience than with his camper than me and my camper.
Yeah.
We bought a new camper, was it 2 summers ago?
Yeah.
I think we stayed in it for 2 summers, and it's been nothing but headaches. We bought it as a 2-year leftover. So at the time, it was a COVID camper.
Yeah.
And,
supply chain stuff just really, man, they made some crappy stuff at that time.
They did, and the problem was
not just the camper world, the whole, vehicle, all of it. I mean, there was some issues across the board.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest issue they had was they would have parts supply chain issues. Yeah. So a camper would get halfway through a build process, and they'd be like, it's got to go sit outside until we get these parts. And then they would bring it back in and try to start back up where they left off, as opposed to when you had that continuity of it just went through. Yeah. And so we had
not ideal.
We've had a lot of roof leak issues in it that have had to be repaired. Some under warranty, some not. Yeah. I think we got everything dialed out with it now. But it's an off-grid one. I mean, when everything works, it's great. The solar system on it is pretty awesome. Yep. You can watch TV and do dishes, and it's got a big black and, freshwater tank and all that good stuff. And we keep a honey wagon, so we're able to dry camp up there. But mine's still in storage. Mine is still in storage. I'm supposed to pick it up this week.
Oh, good. Well, I kind of got to get on it because our first trip, camping trip is going to be at the end of May. So I got about a month, not even a month now, basically. Yeah. When we're recording this, when this comes out, it'll only be about a week before I'm going camping. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about that. We're going to be camping basically right along the Androscoggin, out at Timberland Campground, on Route 2. We got I got a friend that's putting on a little car show gathering type thing for Volkswagens and Audis, and woot woot. Yeah, and we're going to get together for the weekend and just do a crew. We're all going to bring our, if you're camping, you can bring a tent, whatever, but it's kind of invite only. But it's going to be a pretty good little crew, and I'm mostly excited about it just as a reason to get my camper out and go camping. And we're going to be right on the river. The campground has access to the Androscoggin where we fish it right near Shelburne. And so I'm going to be waking up in the morning and walking down the river.
That's fishing. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. And depending on what you're doing, I don't know if you're going to be around at your property on the river, but maybe I'll scoot over there or something. We'll have to hook up if you're around, if you're not guiding or whatever. But
what weekend is that?
The weekend of May 30th, I think.
I think I got trips that weekend.
Cool. Well, maybe I'll
see me.
Yeah. Maybe we can hook up. Yeah. Either way. But I'm excited to get out. I can't wait to get out. Might even go for a weekend between now and then just because I love camping. But So you got a lot of prep to do to get out.
We did a pretty good job of cleaning it up before we put it away, but yeah, I mean, I got to get it out and just, give it a good pressure washing, and we're going to put it up for sale.
Yeah, that's right. You said you were gonna. Yep.
I think we're gonna do that, and then liquidate some other stuff, a boat and what have you, and we're gonna probably build a camp, up on the river, which we're pretty pumped about.
Yeah, I'm excited for that for you. That's wicked neat.
Yeah, nothing special. We're just gonna.
As long as I can still bring my camper, then
You can bring your camper, and we'll just have a bigger, maybe fire ring or whatever to hang out around and stuff. So
it's great.
hopefully we have running water at some point in time.
Yeah.
Running water is good.
Yeah. And not meaning there's running water there, but it's running down the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just good. I mean, even if people come and they camp, you can fill up water jugs.
And you're going to probably be using that property for your guiding quite a bit, like pulling out there and maybe starting there, depending on what you're doing. So, having a little bit more solid home base to store some stuff or a backup place to stop if you really needed to, if something was going on with a client that needed to stop or forgot something or whatever you needed to do. I don't think that's going to be a bad thing for you at all. I think that's going to be great to have that there on the river nearby.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll see, we might do shore lunches there. It's going to open up a lot of stuff where, I'm excited to be able to pair together certain things that if I'm up there staying and I have clients over here at the yurts, there'll be situations where there's evening, hatches, which you've experienced with me there.
Yeah.
And they're pretty special.
Yep.
But the hard part is I'm in a spot that's difficult to get to via boat launches, but I could put in a boat, we could motor up. If somebody wanted to do a half day float, would have it be an evening one, and then say end at 9 o'clock at night in the dark. I just pull up, we get off, and we're right there, and I can leave my boat right in the water.
You can just even leave your boat because it's dark. You don't even have to worry about getting it out, and then you can go back, deal with it the next day or whatever.
It opens up my options. I can do some unique things, and I'm excited about that because that's the hard part. That's the hard part when you have a drift boat, is that you can't always get to areas that you want to get to at ideal times because they're too far of a distance away from boat launches. So after a while, you kind of get I shouldn't be given all this information, but industry secrets.
Sure. Yeah. All the people that are, got drift boats.
Hey, they're out there. They're out there to get you. But anyways.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel good. You feel good?
Feel great. What time we got?
Did you
hour and a half? Yeah. We nailed it.
We nailed it.
Yep.
We nailed it. You're only 2 waters deep.
Yeah. I drink a lot of water. This is
aluminum. Aluminium. I know. I got my ruby red grapefruit seltzer, which I'm addicted to.
Are you? Yeah.
I love that stuff. Oh yeah, you don't drink flavor.
No flavor for me.
No flavor.
Yeah. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah. Next time we'll talk about how Bentley's beard became to be and non-flavored seltzer water.
Yep. Next topic. We already got it laid out. Sounds good to me.
Energy drinks.
Yep.
Energy drinks.
Bentley's beard.
Club soda.
Yep.
Bentley's beard.
Yep. And you'll have to wonder for a few weeks on how they're all tied together.
And zebra cakes.
Sure.
And muffin tops.
Yeah. Top of the muffin to you. Seinfeld reference. Look it up. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, appreciate you listening to us ramble, and we'll see you next time.
Next time.